We're going to break down 5 fights for the upcoming UFC Fight Night. Strickland versus Imavov going down this Saturday, January 14th at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas. Real quick, very, very quickly, please. Other than the 5 main card fights, any fights or fighters that you guys want to just shine a quick spotlight on for the listeners and viewers?
I think there were 2. Go ahead. You can go first.
I got 2 as well. I will mention a guy who I touched on this episode already, which is my boy Javid Basharat, who has come into the UFC. He's 2-0. He's looked fantastic. I thought he was like on the verge of getting a ranked fighter. Instead, he gets a debuting fighter. So I don't really know the logic there. I do know the guy he's fighting is very highly regarded. So maybe this is more about him. They kind of wanted to bring him in, see what happens. I'm pretty sure he's undefeated. His name is Matush Mendonca. So that is a fight to watch. And the other is also a man named Matusz. He might be more like Mateusz because he is Polish. That is Mateusz Rebecki. He is debuting against Nick Fiore. Rebecki, this is at welterweight. Rebecki is a guy who I have heard compared to Gamrot in that people think he may be a guy who comes in off the Polish MMA scene and kind of just quickly ascends to the top of the mix. He's 16-1, so he's a name to watch as well.
The 2 that I had on my radar was Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Mm-hmm. Very interesting fighter. He has his moments. I think he does have a lot of skill. He's just got to put it all together, but he can have some really great performances. And the other one that I was looking at was Sarge Eubanks kicking off the card this weekend against Priscilla Cachoeira, which I think is a very, very good fight for her. I think it'll be a tough fight, but I think it's definitely one that Sarge can win. And I've always been a big Sarge fan. I don't think she's going to move mountains, but goddamn it, do I love to watch her fight.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's the opening fight. I actually think that's a good competitive fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, her sister's a beast, too. I've announced her sister twice in Muay Thai.
Oh, yeah?
Trucks girls. She trucks girls.
Sarge has a sister that fights Muay Thai?
Yeah. Young, very much younger sister. I don't know what the relationship is, if they're full sisters or, I don't know, maybe step sisters, half sisters. Who knows? I don't know. Her sister's, like, very young. She's, like, I don't even know. I want to say, like, young, early 20s. And,
okay.
Just like Rex girls. She's a beast. Her name is Yasmin Eubanks. Okay, let us begin with the opener of the main card in the bantamweight division. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Raoni Barcelos. Nurmagomedov, 15-0, undefeated. He is 3-0 in the UFC with 2 finishes. Barcelos, coming off of that nice win against Trevin Jones, UD, back in October. 17-3 as a pro out of Brazil. Mark, let's throw it over to you first. Give us your quick pick, please, for this fight.
So I'm over here when this fight gets made like, wow, what a great matchup. I go pull up the odds. Umar Nurmagomedov is minus 900.
Jesus.
Wow. Like, as if it's Habib. Minus 900. Raoni Barcelos is plus 600.
Wow.
So, to me, this is a far, far more intriguing fight than those betting lines suggest. Umar is good. He's really good. He's 15-0. He hasn't encountered much resistance as of yet. Granted, he hasn't fought someone quite at this level as of yet. And as you guys know, I've been saying for a while how good I think Raoni Barcelos is. He has had a couple hiccups, but the guy is really, really skilled. He can do everything. He does it all with a high level of technique. He mixes it up well. He's dangerous everywhere. He has power. He's got a wrestling pedigree in Brazil. He's like a multiple-time national champion. He can grapple. Like, the guy is an absolute problem, and he's a tough puzzle to solve. So seeing him at those odds blows my mind. again, Umar's really good. He's so skilled with his lead leg. He controls range so well with it. When he gets on top, he's absurdly heavy, like all these guys from Team Khabib seem to somehow be, just abnormally heavy. So I'm torn. We've seen Barcelos lose fights that he shouldn't have lost before, so it's hard for me to confidently pick him to pull the upset. I think, gun to my head, I'll say Umar pulls out a 29-28 decision behind some wrestling, but I will absolutely be putting some money on Barcelos at plus 600. I just think these odds are wild. And if Umar does somehow walk through him, like these odds suggest, then buckle the fuck up for this guy if he's that good.
Yeah man. Omar?
I'd have to agree. I mean, the one thing you might be worried about when it comes to this matchup in terms of Umar having the edge might be the cardio. I don't see this fight going or finishing early. I think this fight is going to be a scrap, and it's going to be a 3-round scrap. And I think it's going to be a fast-paced one as well. So it's very possible Hani Barcelos might gasp before Umar does. But Barcelos is a scrappy motherfucker. Like, to count him out that hard, I think is a little wild to me. It's very possible that the record and the hiccups might have tarnished a little bit of what the expectation is from Hani Barcelos. But with all that being said, I still am picking Umar to win this fight, but I do it by unanimous decision.
Same.
Look, he's undefeated. He's 15-0. As talented as I think Hani Barcelos is, I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov until he loses. So I'm going to say Nurmagomedov by UD.
I'll say this though: if he submits Hani Barcelos, that's going to be some shit right there.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to mean a lot to me if he handles Barcelos with ease.
Yeah,
man. Okay, let's march on here. In the women's bantamweight division, Ketlen Vieira taking on Raquel Pennington. So Vieira, real quick, she's 31 out of Brazil, 13-2 as a pro. 2 knockouts, 4 subs, coming off back-to-back wins against 2 legends of the sport in being Misha Tate and Holly Holm. Holly Holm back in May. Raquel Pennington really needing really no introduction. 34 years old out of Colorado, 14-8 as a pro. She's riding a 4-fight win streak coming into this weekend, most recently getting a UD over Aspen Ladd back in April. Pennington, after season 18 of Tough, Rousey versus Tate, one of the most popular seasons ever, made her UFC debut at that finale of the season, getting a W over the very popular Roxanne Modafferi. She's 11-5 in the UFC, and she has fought a who's who at women's bantamweight. Omar, let me kick it over to you first this time. What's your take? Pennington matching up against the very formidable Ketlen Vieira.
I think there's one thing that we can all agree on when it comes to Pennington is that she doesn't lose to anybody who's not legit. Ketlen Vieira, I think, is a very good fighter. I think she's skilled, but I do think she has a lot of holes in her game. I think there are a lot of opportunities for a lot of fighters to take advantage of certain spots. I don't remember agreeing with the Holly Holm decision, though I remember it being a close fight. I just think Raquel Pennington is on a certain trajectory right now that I don't think Ketlen Vieira is going to remove her from. Pennington, I think, is very good, man. She's very good. She trains with a lot of great people. Her wife, Tisha Torres, one of the best right now in the business, currently out on, maternity growing baby. But, Mama Pennington at this point, we've all seen what the kids coming into the world do to some of these guys, at least right in the very beginning, right? Like, Dad Cerrone was a problem when he first got on the scene. It's very possible now with a whole different motivation, Raquel Pennington might be on some different shit right now, and she was already very good. So I'm going to be riding with Pennington here, man. I think Pennington can get it done. I think her striking is very, very good and highly underrated. It's not the most gorgeous striking you've ever seen, but it is super effective, and she does it really well. Her fight IQ, I think, is pretty legit. I'm going to go Pennington by UD.
Wow. Okay, Mark.
Ketlen Vieira's favored. She's minus 125, so it's very close. Raquel is even money plus 100.
That's fine with me.
I thought I was going to be alone here, and I am not. It's a tough one. I think if they fought 10 times, it may be like 5-5, maybe 6-4 one way or the other. I think it's real close. Raquel loves to lean on the clinch. I'm not sure that she can do that against Ketlen. Ketlen's a strong girl. She even gave Holly some trouble in terms of getting things off in the clinch. There was a lot of Holly holding, but she couldn't. If she tried to get things off, she was going to lose Ketlen. So it was tough for her to work that clinch game that she likes. I think if Ketlen can keep Raquel off her and keep things more at range, I think the fight can turn her way. But really what this fight comes down to me, and this is not one I'd say to bet. I'm not terribly confident in this. It seems like most of the world's on Ketlen. It just comes down to me that until I see this girl fight with confidence, I'm not picking her to win fights. Even against Holly in a fight where she got a gift of a decision, she fights so tentative. Like she's afraid to use what's in her bag and to understand the power that she has, and she just chills for periods of time in there. And she's fighting Raquel Pennington, who's going to fucking walk at her for 15 straight minutes.
Yep.
So if it was a 25-minute fight, I could see myself having a little more pause that maybe like Ketlen figures it out and ends up taking 4 and 5, but I think in only 15 minutes, Raquel can get 2 of these rounds purely off work rate. So I'm going to go Raquel UD.
Guys, you're ignoring one facet of Ketlen Vieira, is that she is a legend killer. Okay? She has wins over Holly Holm, Misha Tate, Sijara Eubanks. Okay, some of these next ones may not be legends, but vets. She beat Eubanks. She beat Kat Zingano. She beat Sarah McMahon. Again, not a legend, but a real vet in the sport. I think she's going to notch another one on her belt here. Vieira at 5'9". She's a big girl at 135 pounds. And I love Pennington, man. She's a dog through and through. And she's a vet herself. But that's her kryptonite here, is that she's a veteran. And Ketlen Vieira beats veterans. And I think that's going to be Ketlen Vieira by UD. That's the pick.
That's some tinfoil hat shit right there, man.
Okay, middleweight bout. One of the more fun fights on this card. Puna Soriano taking on Roman Kopylov. Puna Storytime Soriano. I didn't know that was his nickname. 9-2 as a pro.
I didn't either. That's incredible.
Apparently, I don't remember anybody calling him that. Storytime Soriano.
That's great.
Out of Hawaii. He is 9-2, 6 knockouts, coming off a win against Dalsha Lungiambula. Kopylov out of Russia, of course. He is also 9-2. He is also coming off of one win against Alessio. How do you say his name?
DiCirico.
Chico?
Chirico.
Kiriko.
Kiriko.
Kiriko. Yes.
Mark, let's keep it with you this time. Give us your take and your pick quickly.
Okay, Puna is favored. He's minus 160. Kopylov is plus 130 as the dog. This is a good fight, fun fight. Could see these guys swinging in there. Kopylov is good. He's skilled offensively, but the man's there to get hit. He gets hit, and I just think that's a tough recipe against Puna Soriano. I think that Puna's strength also helps him if Kopylov kind of tries to get inside and make it a little uglier. And I just think that I think the main thing for him that we are seeing and that we saw play out in the last fight is that he is learning more and more how to land his shots. He's learning more how to set them up, how to connect with the big power that he carries. And the more he does that, the more of a threat he's going to be. And against a guy who's there to be hit, I think we see that happen. So I'm going to go Puna round 2 knockout.
Omar?
I like Punahele. I think his power is significantly better than Kopylov's is. I wasn't particularly impressed with the DiCirico fight, although the ending was great. The fight overall I wasn't super impressed with, not to mention DiCirico was kind of on his way out apparently. But Punahele defeating Lungiambula, while we've seen Lungiambula lose 4 in a row, not the best fighter. Also recently got cut from the UFC. I thought the performance in and of itself was better, more technical. I just saw more fight IQ from Soriano in that fight than I did from Kopylov. Kopylov seems like the type of guy to just sort of go in there, push forward, throw hands, and let God be God, and whatever happens, happens. Punahele seems to have a little bit more purpose when he goes in there with what he strikes, how he strikes, where he's trying to go through the fight. And I think that's what's going to make the biggest difference in this fight. His power, absolutely, but how he's going to use the power, I think, is what sets him apart. So I'm going to go with Punahele, KO, round 3.
We are unanimous for this one. I'm also going with Puna Soriano. You know, Kopylov's a fun guy to watch. He's heavy-handed, but I think Soriano, he's going to match him in power and bring some more well-rounded skills in there. I'm going to go Puna Soriano, round 2 knockout. Okay. Also, it would be Kopylov's first time getting finished with strikes. And I think Soriano has the power to do it and skills.
First time for everything.
First time for everything. Co-main featherweight bout between Dan 50K Ige and Damon Action Jackson. Dan Ige, the always exciting featherweight, looking to right the ship. I believe he's coming off of a 3-fight losing streak. He is 15-6 overall as a pro. Also out of Hawaii. As a 7-1 pro, he appeared on the Contender Series back in July of 2017 and got a submission win over Luis Gomez and has been in the UFC since. He is now 7-4 in the UFC. Damon Jackson, former Legacy featherweight champion, former LFA interim featherweight champion. He's been in and out of the UFC a couple of times. He's also fought for the PFL once. Got knocked out with the flying knee. But he's on quite a tear, riding a 4-fight win streak coming into this weekend. His record stands at 22-4, 1 draw and 1 no contest. 15 submission wins on his record. He is now 5-1 in this current UFC run. Omar, give us your take and your pick of Jackson versus Ige.
First of all, what an absolutely fantastic fight this is. I have a real hard time picking this fight for a couple of different reasons. Partially it's emotional and partially it's logical. I love Dan Ige. I think he's a fantastic fighter. He has been on a streak though, man, a really bad streak. He's lost 3 in a row. Chanson Jung, Josh Emmett, Movsar Evloev. And I don't think Damon Jackson is any easier than any of those names that are on there. I think what makes Damon Jackson very difficult is his overall well-roundedness. He's one of these fighters that's very good on the ground, very good with pressure, very good on the feet. Dan Ige has a very specific style. He likes to fight outside. He likes to use his footwork. He likes to be able to rack up volume, and he's not necessarily looking to kill somebody in there. Damon Jackson is looking not only to kill you, but kill the soul that comes out of you afterwards. Damon Jackson is probably one of the more violent guys in the UFC at this point, and his recent run, because like Mike said, he has been in the UFC in the past, didn't do so well back then, but this recent run that he's had, short of the Topuria knockout, has been stellar performances, and I mean stellar performances, and I can't imagine this one will be any differently. If the man fought the last fight the way that he fought after his brother had recently died, and he still beat the shit out of that kid, I can't see him losing this fight. So I'm going to go with Damon Jackson, man. I'm going to go with Damon Jackson by submission, round 2.
Wow.
Okay, Mark.
Could be big. Okay, so Ige is slightly favored. He's minus 120. Damon Jackson is even money plus 100.
That is weird.
Why, you thought Jackson be favored?
Especially just based off of recent performances, I did, yeah.
I kind of still thought Ige would, just based off the level of opponents. But yeah, I mean, I guess I see what you mean. So yeah, I have never been a Dan Ige guy. I like the guy, Dan Ige. He seems like an awesome dude.
Yeah,
I've never been a huge believer in his top level MMA talent. I see why people think he's the pick here. if he can scramble enough to stay away from Damon Jackson, he does have big power, and Jackson can't be freely exchanging with him on the feet because even though he's had some moments, obviously he finished Pat Sabatini with a big strike, his technique striking is not where Dan Igue's is. But Dan Ige has been exploited on the ground before. And, yeah, okay, you could say it was Movsar Vloyev, but, like, it was also Chan Sung Jung. And, yeah, we've seen him do a lot of great things on the ground, but is Damon Jackson so different on the ground? So I kind of think Dan Ige is just going to get leached for at least 2 of these rounds. That's kind of how I see it. I think that I don't see Damon Jackson finding the sub, but I think he can leach him for 2 rounds and take it 29-28. So I'll go Damon Jackson, UD.
I have a hard time picking this fight, to be quite honest. I think I can see some leeching happen, but I totally agree. I was going to make a very similar point that I think Danny Gay, striking-wise, is going to give Damon Jackson one of his toughest tests. Yeah, I've never been super impressed by Damon Jackson's stand-up skills. So, just for some variety, I'll roll with Dan Ige. I'm going to say Dan Ige gets it done by unanimous decision. I think he'll take 2 rounds to 3 and edge it out against the very tough Damon Jackson. Okay, main event time. Here we go. Thank you very much, Sean Strickland, for saving this main event for this fight night. 2 fight night main events in a row for Sean Strickland. He lost a very close decision to Jared Cannonier. That was weeks ago. And getting right back in there. That's a very Sean Strickland move, I want to say. So, appreciate that. And then he gets on the microphone at the press conference and just talk shit about France.
Yeah, dude, I saw that.
Like,
oh, fuck. Oh, man.
Also, a very Sean Strickland thing to do.
No one ever says shit about what Sean Strickland says. Like, I feel like if other guys said half the stuff Sean Strickland says, it would be, like, hitting Twitter and, like, whatever. And I feel like people are just like, there goes Sean Strickland again. Like, no one fucking cares.
Well, because there's never been any repercussions for it either. Like, nobody's saying anything. He's not going to, nothing's going to happen. So it just,
I mean, not that there should be repercussions for talking shit about France. You're just calling France like a country of cowards. Like,
yeah.
What, is France going to fine him?
No, I don't mean like that. I mean, like, if Jared Cannonier said that, I feel like you'd see posts like,
it'd be
Jared
like
Cannonier, like, characterizes France as cowards. Like, this is not okay. And Sean Strickland says it, and everyone's like, well, yeah, it's Sean Strickland. Like,
I also don't think anybody actually gives a shit what Sean Strickland says, which I think is kind of where it's at. Like, no one really is waiting to see what Sean Strickland has to say to make their lives any different than what they are. Sean Strickland just talks to talk and hopes somebody listens.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just has no filter. He's just the broiest dude who doesn't have a filter and doesn't care and just says whatever he wants. I don't think he says it to be inflammatory or get clicks. He's just like a dude. He just like...
Oh, dude, half the time he says things, you can tell that he's like, maybe this shouldn't be coming out of my mouth, but like, too late now. Like, he always kind of seems like that.
Okay. So Sean Strickland, 31 years old, out of California, 25-5 as a pro, 10 knockouts, 4 subs added to that. He is coming off of back-to-back losses against Alex Pereira and Jared Cannonier most recently. He came into the UFC as an undefeated 13-0 fighter, making his debut at UFC 171 back in March of 2014, a submission win against Bubba McDaniel. And he is now 12-5 in the UFC. He will be facing off against the Frenchman, Nassourdine Imavov, the 27-year-old out of Paris. 12-3 as a pro, 5 knockouts, 4 subs, a pretty good finish rate for himself. He will be riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend. Most recently, a very impressive, pretty dominant UD over Joaquin Buckley back in September. He made his UFC debut in October of 2020, a win against Jordan Williams, and he is now 4-1 under the UFC banner. Omar, let me throw it over to you first. Give us your take and your pick of a very interesting middleweight matchup between Strickland and Imavov.
So we all know what Sean Strickland's game is going to be, right? Like, Sean Strickland is the type of person who wants to throw volume. He's not necessarily turning into all his punches. He's not necessarily looking to overtake you with damage so much as he's trying to overtake you with just his volume. He's also not seemingly the guy who's going to look for the takedowns right away. Very possibly if he gets stuck in a bad spot or starts to get his ass whooped, he might look into changing up his game plan. Nassourdine Imavov is one of these guys that I think is pretty well-rounded. I don't think he is amazing anywhere specifically, but I do think that he is really good everywhere. I think as a result of that, I don't think that Sean Strickland will be able to outstrike him on technique. I do think that if it goes down to the ground, I would probably give that more to Imavov. But I think if Imavov is able to find a way around the peppering style that Strickland has on the feet, I think Imavov might have that fight in the bag. And I can't ride with a guy who just talks random shit about an entire country. At least not right up front. Like, just like Chael Sonnen, I can ride with him later on, maybe 10 years down the road when I find him funny, but not in the moment. So I'm going to go with Imavov by unanimous decision.
Okay, Mark.
Okay, so it is a dead pick'em. Both guys minus 110.
Wow.
Love that Strickland stepped into this fight. I like this fight more than I liked the initial fight with Coven Gastelum. I think it's more interesting, more competitive. It's a hard one because if this was a camp where Strickland had if this was a fight where Strickland had a camp, I would be taking Strickland fairly confidently because he has. So striking, I think they're pretty competitive, and obviously that's what Strickland wants to do. I think his cardio that he normally has gives him an edge. I think Imavov starts to flag a little after round 2. So this being a 5-round fight, I think Strickland would take over late. It would make me lean toward him. Also, Imavov has it in his bag where he can mix it up with the grappling, but Strickland historically has really good anti-grappling, great takedown D. He can make it a striking fight almost always if that's what he wants. For those reasons, if Strickland had a camp, I'd be taking Strickland. With him not having a camp, I worry about a couple things. I worry about when the last time he was training takedown D was, because I doubt was really training it much at all for the Jared Cannonier fight. I don't think he ever thought Cannonier would try to take him down. And I wonder what his cardio is like. And, on the flip side, Strickland's one of these guys who's kind of like always in camp, and he's always fighting, and he's always sparring. So maybe he fucking trains takedown D every day, and maybe his cardio is in great shape, and it doesn't really ever get out of shape. But maybe he's been eating a lot. I don't know what Sean Strickland has been up to since that Cannonier fight. I know he was pissed about the result. Who knows what that means for him? I don't know if he goes into any type of spiral. I don't know what type of cardio shape Sean Strickland walks in this cage with. Imavov looked awesome against Joaquin Buckley. It was the best we've seen him. Striking was incredible. He faded in round 3. Buckley stayed with it. Imavov kind of started to go away a bit. Additionally, Imavov has mostly fought guys he has a size advantage on. The only guy he really didn't was Edmund Shabazian, but Edmund wasn't exactly doing so swift around that time. And we don't really know if he's back yet either. All we've seen him do is beat Lungiambulu, which you would hope he could do. Other than that, he's fighting guys that he's got a height advantage on and a reach advantage on of like three or more inches. Sean Strickland ain't that. I think he's 1 inch taller than Sean, and he's got 1 inch less reach than Sean. So these guys are pretty much the same size. So it's coin tossy for me with Strickland not having a camp, but I'm still going to side with him. I think that it will be striking. I think Strickland can keep it there. And I think Imavov not having the size helps it be competitive. And I'm going to guess that Strickland is one of these guys that carries his cardio all the time and that he ends up taking 4 and 5 and that he can have one of the earlier ones to give him a win. So I'll go Strickland UD.
Very thorough. Mark?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was super impressed by Imavov in his last outing against Joaquin Buckley. He looked great everywhere. His striking looked great against Buckley, who's a super dangerous striker. He was unintimidated by Buckley's power, and he took it to Buckley in a very aggressive style. Now, Strickland has an aggressive style, but an aggressive sort of plodding forward, constantly kind of pecking at you kind of style. I think Imavov generally, I think he carries more fireworks in his arsenal. And you make an interesting point that had Strickland had a full camp, it might be different. Especially, I'm thinking cardio-wise. Because even if Strickland is the kind of guy who seems to sort of always be training and always be sparring, I just have to think that coming in on short notice against a guy who always comes in shape like Imavov, it's too big of a question mark for me. So I'm going to say that Imavov wins 3 of the 5 rounds, quite possibly 1, 2, and 3. And I don't think that Strickland is going to I don't think he's going to do well with his style, first of all, generally speaking, especially in the early going. He might have a late surge, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And I'm going to say Imavov by unanimous decision.
Omar, how'd you say it?
UD.
You did.
Yeah.
You know what none of us noted? Or maybe you did in the intro, Mike. Did any of us note that this is happening at 205 pounds?
No.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Yep, because of the short notice. 205. Yeah.
Now,
So you might be right about Strickland and his weight, at least.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it, that I'm concerned. Yeah.
Especially considering Imavov. Well, Imavov also probably was planning on cutting weight, obviously, for Gastelum, and this happened, a few days before the fight actually went down. So now he's literally gone an entire camp training, building up, bulking up, and all this other shit, putting the water weight on, and now he doesn't have to cut weight. He doesn't have to starve himself this week. He doesn't have to dehydrate himself this week, at least not to the extent he probably was going to, because you're talking about 20 pounds different now.
Yeah.
So Imavov might look even better now than what he was about to at 185.
That's what I was going to say. It's like it could go either way because Strickland is probably going to be the truly heavier guy because like Imavov's body was ready to be smaller. Strickland's was not. But like to train as if you need to make 185 and then get told, oh, like you did all the work, but you don't have to do that last cut at the end. Like your body is probably in a great spot.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we might see like puffy Sean Strickland. We're going to see. See.
For a guy that used to be a welterweight.